Hey everyone, Mark Johnson here and welcome to MJ Guitar TV. This morning here I'm at the sanding bench here. I've got a Mirage Classic with a beautiful walnut top, and it's been all primed, and I'm going to sand it down for the last time, and then we're going to put the color on it, clear it, and so on. And I'm going to be doing that all by hand. We do machine sanding, but I find that doing hand sanding seems to work a little bit better. It's a slower process, but you have way more control. With machine sanding, you can distort it here. And so I think of sanding as a really slow form of sculpting. And so each time I sand it, I can sculpt it a little bit more. So my philosophy on this here is you don't get it perfect the first time. It's a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So each time I go through this process, I refine it a little bit more. And so this is the final sanding, and by the end of this, it should just be right on, okay? And so I'm going to be doing that, but as I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you a story here. And this story is about the time I went to Death Valley and I got stranded there in the middle of nowhere. Now this started back when my wife was alive and she was sick with cancer. And as a little bit of a diversion, I thought that, well, let's plan a trip to Death Valley. And we had a really wet year, a winter. And whenever you have a really wet winter like that, then you have a super bloom in the desert. And because she loved flowers so much, I thought, well, this would be something that she would really enjoy. And we were planning that, and I think she got to the point where she realized that she wasn't going to make it. And so she told me one day, she says, Mark, I don't know if I'm going to make it, if I'm going to live that long. And so I want you to promise me that you'll go to Death Valley. And I said, oh, well, I didn't say, yeah, I'll do that. It's kind of like, well, now you're going to make it, let's not go there. But anyway, she died in the middle of January. And so by May, I thought, okay, well I'm going to go to Death Valley because that's what she wanted me to do. And so I I'm in Northern California on the western side of the Sierra Nevada mountains. And so I crossed over the Sierra Nevada mountains and I connected to Highway 395 and I took 395 south. And there's a little town there called Lone Pine on 395, and there's a turnoff there on Highway 138, and it kind of goes southeast and enters into the western entrance of Death Valley. And so I'm traveling along on this desolate road of Highway 138, and I'm looking for a place to camp, because that's what I was going to do. I was going to, a week, 8 days, 9 days, I don't know what it was, but anyway, I was going to just drive, find a cool place to camp, and so pretty close to the town of Darwin, which is this old ghost town, even though there are some people living there. There was this little road that turned off, and so a dirt road, and so I took this dirt road down several miles there, and found a little place to camp. It was a place where they would collect all the range cattle, and they'd put them in this little pen, you know, and a truck would come and pick them up there. And so anyway, I spent the night there. And during the night, I don't know what happened. I must have bumped something, turned something on. I don't know. But I got up in the morning there, and I got my little stove out. I made coffee, enjoyed the sunrise there, packed everything up, got in the car, tried to start it, wouldn't start. Oh man, what am I going to do? You know, and I try it again, and this feeling kind of comes over you like, oh man, this is bad. I really made a mistake here. What am I going to do? I'm in the middle of nowhere. Now, down this this highway, 138, a car, maybe an hour goes by. At night, I don't know that there was any cars that went down there. It's a lonely road. And so I'm kind of getting a little bit stressed out, like, what am I going to do, you know? And then I just said, hold on here, calm down. Everything's going to work out here. Rather than get stressed about this, hey, look at this as an opportunity for an adventure. Look at this as an adventure. Okay, so, you know, I kind of got my mind wrapped around it, and okay, this is going to be a great adventure. And I'm on this dirt road here, and the main road, you know, the paved road is about 2 miles away. And so I start hiking towards the paved road. And I get about halfway to the paved road, and I realize I didn't bring any food. I didn't bring any water. And I'm thinking, what if I have to spend the night out here in the desert, you know? Because the nearest town, Lone Pine, was 60 miles away. And I'm going, man, you know? And so I go, well, I'm gonna go back to the car, and I better get some supplies. So I walked back to the car. I got a little backpack, and I loaded up some supplies, some water, little snacks, stuff like that. As far as like sleeping out in the desert, I had no provisions for that. I just thought, I don't know, I'll find a rock to, you know, sleep around or something. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking I'll cross that bridge when I get there. So anyway, I'm got my supplies, my backpack, and I'm starting to hike back out to the main road. And I get out to the main road, and let me just say that not only was my car battery dead, but my cell phone I thought was dead. Well, it was really, really low. But it turns out there was no cell service out there anyway, so it really wouldn't have mattered if my cell phone was charged or not. So I was pretty stuck. So I get out there on the main road, and I thought, well, I'll just try to hitchhike back to Lone Pine. Well, like I told you, you know, a car comes by about every hour. And so, you know, a car came by, and, you know, they just kept driving. I believe another car came by, and, you know, they just kept driving by. And then I see in the distance this motorhome coming down the road. And I'm thinking, oh man, there's probably some family in there, you know, they're vacationing. they'll never stop. Why even try? But then I'm thinking, I have to try every opportunity. I have to take every opportunity to try and get a ride. So here it's coming down the road, and I stick my thumb out, and it stops. I go, whoa, this is crazy, you know? So I get in there, you know, they open the door, and yeah, come on in, you know? And it turns out that there's a bunch of young people in there, and they were roadies for a female artist out of Belgium. And they spoke with a very heavy accent. Some of them didn't even speak English. And so anyway, they were headed in the right direction. And so I get in there, and you know, we try to have conversation. I think there was about 4 guys and one girl in there. And so they were in between gigs. And so they thought that they would take this opportunity to kind of like see America a little bit. You know, they were close to Death Valley, so that's where they were coming. They were coming out of Death Valley, and they were headed to Los Angeles because the female artist had a show that night, and so they had to get to Los Angeles and get things kind of set up there. So we're going down the road, and by the way, the wind at this time, it was terrible. Boy, it was blowing that thing all over the place, you know, and but there were no cars coming down the road. So anyway, then we get down the road, and we get to this turnoff, and it's going to take them to Los Angeles, and it turns off to the left, but I have to keep going straight down into Lone Pine. And so I say, well, I better get off right here. And so they let me out, and we say goodbye, and they take off to Los Angeles, and here I'm sitting out in the middle of nowhere again. And no traffic's coming by. This road is almost, I mean, it's hardly ever traveled. But finally, a little car comes by, and they stop. And it's a young couple from Taiwan, and they had come to the United States for a wedding in Los Angeles. And again, while they're here, you know, they thought, well, hey, let's see some of the sights here. And so they were touring Death Valley. And so they stopped and they picked me up. They had to have been in their late 20s, early 30s. Really nice young couple. And so they really took care of me. They took me to a little store to, as we're getting close, and I'm asking the person in the store if there's a place nearby that, you know, that I can get some car parts. And so they tell me about a Napa auto parts store there a little further down the road. And this couple, they stayed there. They took me to the auto parts store. They stayed there to make sure that, you know, okay, I got, you know, what I needed, and once they were satisfied that I wasn't going to be stranded there, then excuse me, you know, they said, okay, well, looks like you're in good hands, and so they took off. So here I am now in Lone Pine, 60 miles away from where my car is. I bought a battery. Now how am I going to get back? So the guy that sold me the battery, he says, you know, my son can take you back there and help you, you know, install the battery. And So we arrived. Wasn't going to do it for free. I understand that. I wasn't expecting it to be done for free. So anyway, we arrived on a price. We got the, loaded the battery up, some tools and stuff, and so we headed back towards Death Valley on Highway 138 out of Lone Pine there. And so we got there to the car and we installed the battery. And when we did that, it locked all the doors. And so the keys were in the car. It's like I didn't bother to take the keys with me. I mean, it wasn't going to go anywhere. The battery was dead. And oh man, and my heart just sank, and I'm going, oh man, now what am I going to do? And at this point, I was ready to break one of the windows. What else are you going to do here? And he goes, no, he says, don't do that. He says, here we've got one window that's a little bit open. And so I would do that when I was asleep in the car. I kind of leave the window down a little bit because you want to get some fresh air in there and stuff like that. And so he had really thin arms there, and he got his arm down in there and opened the door, and oh man, I was so happy. And so we got the car open, got it started. He took off back to home, and I tell you, it was such a good feeling to be back on the road again. And I don't know what time it was when this all started. When you're out there, you kind of go to bed when the sun goes down and you get up when the sun comes up. So it was probably, 6:30 maybe in the morning. And by noon, I was back on the road, headed towards Death Valley. Isn't that awesome? Loved that trip. Hey, thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you at the next episode. Maybe I'll even have this thing all sanded and some color on it. Who knows? All right. Thanks again.